Well, hey there, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of the show. I am your host, Janine Alley, and you're listening to Becoming the CEO of Your Life today. And today we are talking about Phoenix Fire, the strength to burn something down and rebuild it back again, with having the faith in the process of doing that to build it back stronger than before. So if you're brand new to the podcast, I want to welcome you here. I have created this podcast to help you to develop unapologetic trust in yourself and in your message and in your mission, and to show up with unwavering conviction in not only what you share with the world, but how you share it as well. So there comes a time as a visionary and as a creator when you know that you need to make some significant shifts in what it is that you're doing. You can kind of feel this in your bones. And it feels like a time to really burn something down and to create it differently and to create it better than what you had thought it was going to be or what it looks like currently. And this can feel really scary and it can feel really liberating at the same time. So I'm going to start off telling a story about this process and using an analogy of something from before I was even a business owner. So I took a pottery class in high school, and it was one of my favorite classes because I loved all of the art classes. I took drawing and batik and pottery and all kinds of fun things like that. And the very first project that my pottery teacher had us to make was a whistle. And it could have been something super simple, but I wanted to make mine into a turtle and to have his little shell be the ball and blow in his little mouth, and made legs, and his shell was super ornate, and it was just really cute. In fact, this is something that we still have. It's actually at my mom's house, but it's still something that I just really prized. And I did back then, and I still do to this day. But when we were done with this project, what we were supposed to do was throw it away. And my teacher wanted to make a point that art isn't sacred, but I was shocked. I was like, I made this and it is so precious. I still do this with things that I create, including things that I create in my business. I've created courses that I have just thought were amazing. And I have created different things that I've had that same connection to. But this is something that I have learned to let go of more and more and more over time, because I've realized my business isn't me. This isn't sacred, and it can't be in order to be successful. We create things and we put it out in the world to either be rejected or accepted. And this kind of reminds me of a quote actually from You've Got Mail. If you've ever seen that movie with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, there's a point in the movie where she had to close her business because his book business kind of took over. I think it was the west side of Manhattan, and put her out of business. And he's like, listen, it wasn't personal, it was business. And she got really offended and really mad about that. But he does make a point, and I can see it actually from both sides. You see why she got mad, because it was her baby. It was something that was so special and important to her. But for him, it's just business. And in order to do business well, sometimes you have to create a little bit of that an attachment to what it is that you create. Otherwise, we feel like it's sacred. It's hard for us to give these things up. So this is good. The market is going to tell us if it's something that they want, right? By putting it out there in the world and getting rejected, that is a good thing. So what we want to do is we want to find that sweet spot between what it is that you want to create and what other people want or need. Right? If you spend a lot of time creating something that you don't really want to create, people love it, you end up feeling unfulfilled, right? Or if you spend a lot of time focusing on creating something that you absolutely love and no one wants or needs it, that also leads to unfulfillment. So we want that sweet spot between creating something that we love and what other people love as well. And this is the same thing with life, right? We get going, we're thinking that we have this amazing plan about how our life should turn out, right? And God laughs, right? And so we make new plans, right? And sometimes they're drastically different from what we thought or what we expected. And in order to get to that place, we have to go through a refiner's fire to be able to kind of align the expectation with God's expectation, if you have that belief. And I do. And I strive so hard to align those two things together. And I think we get this intellectually, right? We get this refiner's fire intellectually, and we want it also intellectually. We want that. We want to change and we want to grow. We want to morph into becoming the best version of ourselves until we're actually in it. And then it hurts like hell. And we're like, never mind. I actually don't want this. Abort, abort. I changed my mind, right? One of my clients is also going through this process right now. She's very mission focused and she's a fighter, which I love. I love these two things about her. And she's someone who is very much a visionary. She has done amazing things. She's going to continue to do amazing things, but she's in this place of pause right now, which is also amazing, actually, from my perspective. I've been in the pause many times. I've been going through a pause recently. And so I get it. But for people who love to plan and to feel like there currently is no plan, that is so hard. It requires so much self-trust and so much connection. That self-trust really is pivotal to creating the freedom and the life that we want to have. But if you identify as somebody who is a doer, and being a doer is a good thing, and getting things done is a good thing, which, I'm over here raising my hand. I totally get that. We wake up and we love to work, and then we feel like there aren't things to work on and there isn't a direction currently. That is really, really hard. We get to this place where we realize, okay, there are some things that I have to let go of, things that I am doing that are not serving me, that I don't want to have with me moving forward. Things like self-doubt that surfaces, or stress, or certain expectations that we have or other people have for us. Prioritizing external demands, for example, over staying true to our own values and aspirations. These are things that sideline us, that don't serve us in what we're doing. I can't really see an upside for any of these, for any of these things. They only cause problems down the road. And these things can happen on both a micro and a macro level. I feel like I've been going through a macro experience of this. My client also is going through a macro. I have another client that's going through a micro experience of this, and she is shedding more of these people-pleasing tendencies that have gotten her stuck in the past. She has, I'm just going to give you a quick example of this because I think it's good to see these things. So she really highly values mental and emotional health. She values her downtime. She values spending time with her family. But she currently just said yes to someone who had a big ask for her time that conflicts with these values. And so she came to me. She wanted coaching on managing the resentment that she currently feels and creating downtime and family time now that she's in this situation, now that she's made this commitment. And I was talking, she's like, I feel like I want to protect this time. I think for her, it feels like she's fighting for the armrest on an airplane. She wants the downtime, she wants the family time, and somebody's over here like, but I want your time. But what I was more interested in, besides the armrest fight, beside the resentment that she feels currently, what I was more interested in was getting to the bottom of why it is that she said yes, and getting really clear on why she committed to this, even though it conflicts with her values. To be able to have those kinds of conversations with ourselves help us to align, but it also helps us to grow. We have to burn these parts of ourselves down and to get to the bottom of things, really, in order to prevent these things from surfacing or happening again in the future, right? You have to get really clear on why it is that you said yes, if you're a people pleaser like that. And this, regardless of whether it's a micro or a macro experience that you're going through, this requires that we are 100% honest with ourselves. And this is hard to do because having those kinds of conversations sometimes brings up some shame, right? But this is required, like I said, in any situation, asking ourselves, okay, what do I want? What do I really want right now? And being honest with that, even if it means letting go of the dream or the way that you dreamed the dream, which, the way that you thought it was going to unfold, and letting go of that. We change and we evolve. And sometimes things that we create also need to change and evolve in a big way as well. Like I said, we get going, building the dream and putting these pieces together the best that we can with the knowledge that we have at the time. Maybe we're trying to solve one problem and we put a specific system in place, for example, but that creates a new problem down the road. And the whole thing, we realize at one point, needs to be overhauled. We have this idea sometimes in the process of this that if I follow my gut, I'm going to lose momentum. And that might be true for a time, maybe a season at least. And I know that these situations feel massively inconvenient, like a kitchen remodel, right? You're trying to eat and all your appliances are in the garage, your dishes are in the living room. The way that you're cleaning up happens in the bathtub, in a different room. But these things need to happen from time to time, right? We need these insights of this upheaval that is trying to happen, or you're willing to let it happen and it's still uncomfortable. And even though we expect it to be uncomfortable, we're trying to be fine with all of it, and we don't feel fine. And that's also hard. But in the long run, I just want to remind you, you're going to be so grateful that you took the time and really slowed yourself down to think about this. And you did the work and you asked the hard questions and you got quiet to receive these answers. I've been surprised how the clarity and the answers have come in my life. I think we often are so impatient. I know I am. I want these answers right now, and they don't happen like that a lot. And we have to be patient, and that is tricky. It's hard because there is this kind of, like I've alluded to, this internal thrashing around that happens, and it is so uncomfortable. Remember telling my husband recently, I'm like, I am just in so much pain about this. And it doesn't seem to make sense because everything seems fine on the outside. But that's what comes with this kind of upheaval, is there is so much transition going on. It can feel really painful, and we can't buffer with busy. If we're really in that space of allowing this transition to change us, we cannot buffer with busy and doing a bunch of stuff. We have to sit with what we've been putting off, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. It's like going into the attic and dusting off these chests of stuff that's just like, I know it's up there. I can just ignore it for a long time until you can't. And then it's time to get to work and do that tough internal exploration that's required. The other day, I was actually feeling really ungrounded. And the way that I would kind of explain this to someone if they were to ask me, it feels like a free fall. It feels like skydiving, or for me, it feels worse than that. It feels like doing a, what's it called? Like a base jump. If you don't know what a base jump is, it's literally running off a cliff and with your parachute in your hand and throwing it up into the air and hoping it opens. I have nightmares about these kinds of things because I have one of my kids who just would think that would be awesome. I am afraid of heights and I'm afraid of falling. And so that terrifies me of doing something like that. I also don't think it's very wise, but but when you're in this space, it feels like that. You're questioning everything, and it doesn't feel like there's any stability in this. And I'm a questioner, but I rarely question everything all at once. And it kind of feels like you're removing everything and then adding it back in one thing at a time, like a detox diet. You're removing everything except for the onions, for example, and you're slowly adding everything back in. Onions. I don't know why onions just popped into my mind. Can you imagine how bad you'd smell if you were doing that diet and all you were eating are onions? Onions and garlic, you would clear the room, right? If you need some quiet time, you can start maybe with an onions and garlic detox diet. But anyway, so that is kind of what this feels like. And in the process of doing this kind of unearthing everything, I needed a specific goal. I needed an unrelated goal. This is kind of how I managed this instability, I guess, or this feeling of being ungrounded. And so I picked a reading goal. I actually I picked a reading goal and a spiritual goal at the same time. I'm going to tell you generally what I'm doing, just because it will be fun maybe for you to know. But I'm going to read through a spiritual text 12 times in 1 year. And each time I go through it, I'm going to be looking for a different word, like remember or love or covenant or something that sparks my interest at the time. And in doing this unrelated goal, I trust that I'm going to get answers to the questions that I'm asking. Not that the answers I'm going to get are the things that I hope I'm going to get. That's part of that letting go, right? Sometimes we ask these questions and we have expectations for what the answers are going to be. And I've had to let all of that go as well. But the real answers, I'm in a place where I have zero expectations of what is going to come through. But I feel like the answers are coming. So one thing has been super clear to me so far. And that is, if I move forward with this goal, I cannot do things the same way that I have been doing them. Things need to change. And I am connecting to my core And that has everything to do with the answers that I'm getting. I feel like that connection for me, has everything to do with my connection to God. And I don't talk about that very much on the podcast. But I feel like what he's saying is you need to do this my way. You can't be letting your agenda kind of get into the mix of this and make this a muddy experience. And that actually has been the plan for me all along, is to do things his way. But I have a tendency sometimes to move forward without checking in, and to kind of put my blinders on and, put my head down and get going on something. And I plan on checking in a lot more. And so hopefully this spiritual goal will help me to ground in that and to get the answers that I need. But self-trust through this whole thing is really key. And when I talk about self-trust, I am talking about that connection with God. That is how we gain that self-trust. So that is where I'm at, my friends. I hope this is helpful. This is kind of the Phoenix Fire. This is what it feels like. I know, like I said just a second ago, we're all in for this until we start feeling it. And then it's like, whoa, like, this does not feel good. This is not what I expected. So if you want to know more about how to do this, and what this looks like in your life, I want to encourage you to go over to my website and watch the masterclass that I've created just for you. You can go to JanineAlley.com/webinar to access that. It's called Discover the Exact Soul Satisfying Process of Becoming the CEO of Your Life, and creating your vision from your heart so that you can play a bigger game with less time and effort than ever before. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, even if you are a current client of mine, I want to encourage you to go watch that, because so much of what I'm doing moving forward has to do with what I've created in there. It is so good. It's only 20 minutes, and it's probably one of the best freebie things that I've ever created. And I've been creating stuff for a long time. It's one of my favorite things to do. So go and find that. Go watch it. It's really good. JanineAlley.com/webinar, or you can just go to my website, click the buttons. You'll get there eventually. All right, my friends, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. If this podcast made a difference for you, I would love for you to leave me a rating and a review on whatever podcast platform that you're listening from, or on YouTube. You can do it over there, and share it with a friend. That would be amazing for me. All right, my friends, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, and we'll talk to you guys soon. We'll see ya.